for you. Good evening. I see it's 7 o'clock, so let's call the meeting to order. We will begin with the pledge, please.
Mom, should I get it there?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We start off with our first item, and I'd like to give the floor to Mrs. Dickerson for elementary student recognition.
Doesn't look like very many of our elementary Willy Wonka kids came, but they were invited to come. Lacey, could you remind me how many you had from elementary only?
Oh, I'm not for sure of an exact number, but I believe that there was about 24 elementary only students, somewhere around that.
So we had announced to them that they were welcome to come tonight, but they have probably performed 2 nights in a row and all day Saturday, so maybe they need a little bit of a break. But Miss Eisen is here. She directed with the assistance of Mr. Bales and Miss Powell, and they did, if you didn't get to see the show, they did a phenomenal job this weekend. So Lacey, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just that I'm so proud of them and all their hard work that they did. My high school students, I see some of them here tonight as well, so I'm just very proud of all the hard work and hours that they put into it.
Sounds good. Mitchell, do you want to tell them who you were, since you're the only one here? Which your mom almost forgot.
I was the kid to James and Willy Wonka Candy Kid.
You were a squirrel too.
And I was a score.
Yep. Very good.
Thank you so much. Great. I'd like to punt now to Mrs. Whaley for our high school recognition.
So I'd like to recognize our high school choir. So my first year, I don't know all their accolades that they've had in prior years, but they just competed at Solon Ensemble a few weeks ago, then had their state competition, was it 2 weeks ago? Is that right? 2 weeks ago? And I don't understand all the jargon, but gold, is that? He's going to be disappointed, yes. And I don't know. Oh,
My bass just got
You can sing breathless.
But I'm just really, if you haven't had a chance to listen to them, they asked if they could sing a song, and I said absolutely. But they're pretty phenomenal. I was very impressed. I've enjoyed watching their concert. Just excited to hear them tonight, but just really proud of them. So, Mr. Bales, is there anything you'd like to add?
If you're going to give me the chance to brag, I am for a little bit. This group has really, I don't know, I'm not sure what to say. They made me feel like I'm at the pinnacle of my career. I've been waiting 30 years for this. I've had some really great groups come through. We've done some really fun things in the past. But I probably can say this is the most skilled, talented group that I've had. I have never even attempted to take my choir to state before. I'm a judge for those events. I work for ISMA. I do those things, so I know what's required there. And I've taken my kids many times to district competition, but you can only go on to state if you enter them in Division I. I never tried to even enter my choir in Division I. But these kids challenged me from day one. What I thought was going to be challenging for them this fall, they just blew it out of the water. So Christmas time, I thought I'm going to pick something even more challenging, college level stuff. They blew it out of the water. I thought, I got to do something to challenge them, and I thought, so I'm going to pick something in Division I. I've never tried it before because I know what schools compete at that level, and said, let's go for it. And I picked 2 college level pieces for them to do. And again, they just blew it out of the water. So we came home from that. One of their most famous, or one of their most favorite styles of music to sing is American spirituals. And they just enjoy singing that kind. And so I thought, what can I give them to challenge them? And one of the styles of music that came from that tradition was jazz. And I'd never done any jazz with them. I've not done jazz with a lot of my choirs. So I said, "Let me find a hard jazz piece and throw it at them." It was like nothing. So, you know, this last concert they're going to do on Springsing, I let them choose all the music. And I look at that, we're in the middle of that project right now. They have to go through each one of them, create a list of songs they think would be good to sing, and then they're all going to vote on the ones we want. And they're going to challenge themselves. You look at some of the lists that they've given. So the song we're going to sing for you tonight is not the big piece we sang at State, because we are missing, well, now we're only missing 7 voices. But when you only have 19 voices, every voice is very valuable. Okay, and so when we're missing 7, that's quite the. But they really wanted to perform for you, and so the piece that we're going to do is the piece that we took with our smaller group, because we took the whole choir and then we took a smaller group. And actually at State, only 9 of our kids sang it, so this piece kind of fits in their voice. If you want to hear the whole thing, come out Thursday night. That's the end of our winter concert. They're going to sing all their spirituals that they love to sing, and the jazz piece that I threw at them, and some other hard stuff. And we're going to combine with our junior high choir that's also talented. It'll be fun. So it's at 7 o'clock on the stage if you want to hear it. This piece is called Ask Me No More. It is a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And it is the context of the piece. The question, ask me no more, is really kind of unclear when you read the poem. You don't know exactly what it is. He's saying not to ask him anymore, but it's obvious in the poem that he's talking to someone who's very valuable to him, maybe someone he loves very much that's close to death. And we don't understand whether it's a rhetorical question that they both know the answer to, and so he's just like, you know, don't ask me that anymore, you know the answer. Or is it a question that's just a difficult subject to broach? And he's saying to that one he finds valuable or that he loves, that let's just not talk about it right here. So this has a very emotional connection with them, Ask Me No More, and personal here because the poem itself is about how valuable a person is, and each of these kids is so valuable to me. On our concert Thursday night, and I promise I'll shut up, our theme is kind of about how valuable each individual one of these students are. We started with a piece called You Will Be Found, and it's a piece from a musical where they discover for themselves how valuable they are. And then we're going to go to a couple of other pieces, another piece that talks about how they can take that value that they have discovered and share it with other kids who maybe haven't found their own value yet. And then we'll end with a piece that says, hey, listen up, parents, anybody in our audience. What can you do? You can listen to us because they have a lot of valuable stuff to share. So this is called Ask Me No More. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
took a bunch of your time, but I thank you so much for this honor. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, you guys did a great job, I'm really proud of you. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. At this moment, if you have been recognized and a guest for that, we would not be offended if you leave. We're going to get into the meat of the business portion. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
No, everybody can stay. You're more than welcome to stay.
So now we'll come into the meat of the business portion of our meeting, and we will begin with the approval of the agenda. The agenda has been revised. When we get further into the agenda, we'll be requesting permission to table some of the policies. Other than that, what you have before you is the way that we will proceed. Any objections to the approval of this agenda, board?
It's good.
Okay, hearing none. Let's move down into the approval of minutes. These are for the minutes that we received for February 7th, executive session, and February 13's monthly meeting. Those are within your packet, of course.
One correction on February 7th. I was called for work, so I should be not. Callie was not present.
You were not.
Yeah, on February 7th. on that.
With that correction, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? All in favor for the approval of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion for the approval of the minutes passes 5-0. Next up, we have comments from patrons. Seeing none, we can proceed for president's comments, though I'm most certainly not the president, but filling big shoes tonight. I'd like to take just a moment and comment on how very exciting it is to witness the great things going on at BRB. There are many, many wonderful and important things happening each and every day. Each and every spoke in this wheel is critically important and very valuable. Our forward momentum is thrilling, and I truly appreciate the efforts and hard work of everyone, both those at the forefront and people that are behind the scenes. Our energy and our desire for excellence is tremendous. As we continue to grow and inch toward greatness, I'd simply like to say it is noticed and it is valuable. It's a great time to be a Viking. Of that I am certain. With that, superintendent's comments.
I want to start out just by noting our students' efforts tonight with, I know a lot of the elementary kids weren't here from Willy Wonka, but the Department of Education is stressing, emphasizing more career readiness more than ever. And you're going to start to hear a term more and more called profiles of a graduate. And we're the administrative team, our staff, we are starting to build those things. And really what that comes down to are, just building grit, toughness, talent, life skills in our students from kindergarten all the way through their senior year. And my point to that is, when you hear our choir or watch our athletic teams, or you see, the work that all of the kids had to put, all the practice, months and months of practice for Willy Wonka. all of those things, and I'm going to leave some of them out this evening, but those type of things do build talent, life skills, grit, and it's just much appreciated. And to Ms. Bryant's kind of comments there, that there are a lot of good things happening across our district, and I know I, for one, am sure proud of our students' efforts and our staff. Secondly, I just want to recognize Mr. Burris and Mr. Conwell, our IT department, for all the things that they're doing behind the scenes and kind of whipping us back into shape. And you know, they're charting a positive course for us, and it is very, very much appreciated, gentlemen. And lastly, it's unofficial right now, but I'm very proud of our school board. We recently found out unofficially, I'm sure it'll come out officially pretty soon. I already have a newsletter ready to hit send, but they earned level 1 commendable status with ISBA's Exemplary Governance Award platform. And it took a lot of work on their part outside of normal business. This was for 2022. So for the record, want to recognize John Cross as well. He was a board member last year. So that's all I have, Ms. Bryant. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda will be our resolutions. Start with financial. Those documents are within your packet.
Do we accept Resolution 2023-3-1 as presented?
Second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor of passing resolution, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Resolution, motion passes 4-0. I'll get the momentum going just a second.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Next up, we have claims.
I make a motion that we accept resolution 2023-3-2. Second.
Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 4-0. Thirdly, we have personnel. R-20233-3. This is hiring extracurricular Paige Williamson, varsity boys volleyball assistant. Hiring non-certified Carolyn Doyle, special ed paraprofessional. Maternity leave non-cert Grace Hutton Hillard, custodian, Blue River Elementary. Hiring non-certified James Mike Boggs, custodian. Resignation, non-certified Casey Hauser, special education paraprofessional at the elementary. Leave of absence, non-certified Janice Ritchie, library aide at the elementary. And lastly, the hiring of certified Nicole Osborne, reading interventionist, please forgive me, at the elementary.
I make a motion we accept resolution 2023-3-2.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 4-0. Our next item is the resignation of certified staff Terry Kuntz, elementary and high school teacher.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2023-3-8. Second.
Discussion or questions? Hearing none, our vote, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Our next item is the transfer from education to operations. Again, that is within your packet. The resolution carries a sum of $43,995.02 from the education to operations for February of 2023.
I make a motion that we accept resolution R 2023-3-4. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Let's vote. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion passes 4-0. That brings us to old business. Anything at all? Okay. Hearing none. Item 11, our new business. And we start with the approval of student transfer report. Again, that is within your packet.
Make a motion, we accept the transfer request as recommended.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The transfer request passes with a vote of 4-0. Secondly, approve the request regarding Ivy Tech early college classes. So, Mr. McCormick and/or Mrs. Whaley, would you like the floor?
Mrs. Whaley, could you give a overview of the Ivy Tech early college classes and what we're proposing this evening to the board?
Yeah, so as of right now, our school pays for our kids to attend early college, and that is $1,050 per student. They don't pay any of that cost. That comes all out of Blue River's fund. So this year we paid $24,150. We do not get any reimbursement for CTE money for those classes. So I'm proposing that the parents or students take on that cost instead of Blue River taking on that cost if they would choose to do those classes.
And we did do some homework. Do any other school districts in our area bear that burden?
At this time, no. Not that I know of.
So, you know, it will be a recalibration. We understand that. There might be some head scratching on that, but it really is just bringing us into alignment with the way most school districts handle this, and it is a cost savings for us.
So just so you guys know, Ivy Tech does do it at a discounted rate regardless. Per credit hour, it's actually the same amount our students pay here to do dual credit. So if they were to take biology 2, they're expected to pay $75 for the credit hour for that class. We still have them pay here, but yet we didn't have them pay. It's the same cost as if they would go to Ivy Tech, but I'm just asking that they take up on that cost like they would if they took a dual credit class at the river.
So they can still attend Ivy Tech, correct? They just incur the cost?
Correct. Yep.
Any other questions?
So high school kids that attend Ivy Tech, are they eligible to prepare a FAFSA for financial aid, or is there any other opportunities out there like for the lower income kids to be able to still perhaps have this opportunity?
I've not reached out to Ivy Tech and asked those questions, so I could find out and let you know. Obviously, it wouldn't happen with this, but
I have of the 24 that are there, some of them will be able to do it, but I'm sure there's some that won't too. So.
I think my concern, a lot of our kids, a lot of kids that are going to take those classes don't really benefit what they're going to go to school for, to get the college credits out of the way, which a lot of those we could offer through our teacher share program. Obviously, we couldn't offer art history with some of the other ones we could, so I hope that helps.
I I really like your comment on the culture and climate. That's something I've kind of thought for a while, so until I read that observation.
And I appreciate, I know you've done a tremendous amount of research and work,
Yeah, and my goal is not to prevent kids from going.
of course.
It's more of a financial for the school. So we have some kids that are gone to vocational and gone to early college all day and take a Play-Doh class and pay $0 other than their computer to come here, which I think is outstanding, don't get me wrong, but it's also not financially responsible, I don't think, for the district.
Thank you, Mrs. Whalen.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the request regarding Ivy Tech early college classes. Second.
Any discussion or questions? With that, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that request, that motion passes 4-0. Moving on, we have the approve the Fine Arts Department European Tour for 2025. Mr. McCormick or Mrs. Whaley again, any?
So we had met, well, you guys had met as a board in November, whether we wanted preliminary, and Mrs. Dickerson, Mr. McCormick and I had discussed it. We wanted your guys' preliminary approval before they would go, but we feel like we need the board approval now before they continue any further, since it would be overnight and overseas, because they're getting ready to start putting down money to go. We don't want them planning something that you guys haven't approved at a board meeting. You know, we did discuss it in November. Do you have any questions for me about it?
I think at some point it'd be great to get a nice presentation showing where you're going. What you'll be doing, I don't think I'll be able to go, but it'd be a nice to live vicariously through you for at least a few minutes.
Oh, you think I'm going?
Vicariously through Mr. Hill.
I can make sure that when they're done, that they have a full presentation.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna go, that's a commitment though right now. He has sent us an itinerary of places that they're gonna go. I'd be happy to, I can email it to you guys if you'd like to have that. So where they're gonna go.
I'm just taking pictures or something.
Okay, the afterwards, the after.
There you go, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
If you leave Mr. Whaley at home with the children,
There may not be a business day. That's recorded.
thank you, Mrs. Whaley.
Yep.
With that passport early.
I already have it.
I make a motion we approve the Fine Arts Department European Tour for 2025.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Have fun.
Let's vote. All in favor, please.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion passes 4-0. We move on now to the approval of an e-learning day for May 9th. Mr. McCormick.
We already have an e-learning day scheduled in April, but the administrative team, and at the recommendation of Mrs. Dickerson, which I fully support, we want to add an e-learning day in May, and I will turn the floor over to Mrs. Dickerson, and she'll kind of explain what and why we're going to pursue that.
We have our digital learning grant that we were awarded last year for $50,000, and we've been spending that money. We have been working with a professor from Trine University, Dr. Megan Tolan, who has come each month and helped us with tech integration and learning management systems. And so when Mrs. King and I sat and redid pieces of the budget, after you get it, and then you amend it when it doesn't 100% work out like we thought it was going to. And so we kind of had the idea that if we could do a full e-learning day in May, because we still have 2 that we could technically give in the year. If we did a full e-learning day, traditional, not live instruction, that our teachers could attend professional development, and Dr. Tolan would be able to work with all of our staff for the day and not just our digital cadre team. So the goal would of that day, we know it's going in May, the goal would be for them to get skills for August of next school year. So it would be a full day, probably in small groups and stations. our digital cadre team would get a specialized time with Dr. Tolan, and then she would be available for certain groups to work with her. So,
And this will be asynchronous?
asynchronous day for students. You could call it traditional e-learning.
Say that. Any other questions? So I would support Mrs. Dickerson and our administrative team's proposal to add this asynchronous e-learning day on May 9th before you.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next up, course curriculum guide. I yield the floor to you.
So Mrs. Whaley and I spent many hours and days probably updating the course curriculum guide. So this is something that we ask the board to approve every year. These are the courses that our high school students will be offered to take or select to choose from. Mrs. Flynn will take this document and then begin scheduling. We had some formatting concerns and maybe the right way to put that, so we started from a clean slate, even though some of the information in here is the same as in the past. So we provided you guys 2 copies once we approve it, and it'll go live on the website to provide it to parents as well. This document right here that starts with career pathways, this is kind of a brief synopsis of the changes. I won't read all of it to you. But a few highlights I'd like to change or talk about. The class of 2024 is still under the old graduation pathway requirements, which means they had to take 2 courses in their CT area to graduate. The class of 2025 has to take 4 classes. So we are still in the middle of having different graduation CTE requirements for different classes of graduation. So this is the last year for that until it might get changed again someday. So for now, we're planning for the 2024, but we also have to keep in mind the 2025 kids in order to make sure they have all 4 of their classes. So we started some of that this school year. The only changes really on agriculture that you would see is in meeting with Mrs. Ternowski and Mrs. Strippen, we talked about the additional ag teacher. What do we want to do with that class? Last year we said we wanted a plant soil science concentration, but we really hadn't talked to the kids a whole lot. What they wanted to do after high school and what would prepare them for. Through the 3E grant, one of the requirements is we have to offer additional pathways. So our 3E grant is the one for over $120,000 to add pathways for career readiness as part of the deal. So we talked, they made a couple of changes to agri-science. You used to have to choose an agri-science pathway that was only animals or only plants and soils. Now you can kind of mix the 2, but Mrs. Ternowski and I have talked. Can't really pass advanced animal science if you didn't take animal science first. So we still kind of have indicated pathways, even though we don't technically have to do that any longer. Precision agriculture, though, is something that we would like to consider as we move forward. One of the reasons people don't do precision ag is because of the cost of it, but because we have the 3E grant that could pay for supplies and get it off the ground, we felt like that was something that we want to do. Mrs. Ternowski could probably answer what precision ag is better than I can, but what my understanding of it is crop management and using your technology to determine crops and the best yield from your money. Did we get that close to right? Okay, so we would like to look at exploring and starting that pathway. It would depend per year kind of who teaches it, but the ag teachers felt like that was the direction we wanted to go with our students here. We are still on the biomedical pathway, so currently Kristen Tran teaches the first 2 courses. It has been in our plan that this school year we would add a 3rd course, which is medical interventions. So we will train a teacher and we will add to that pathway. We are still on track to finalize that. So that's not a change. In business, we don't have any changes to that as well. Those are still pathways that we plan on offering. So there aren't any changes on the business pathways. Questions about what pathways Blue River will offer? I went ahead and Mrs. Whaley did some work on dual credit. We've made some changes from the past, just a little bit more details in this area. For example, we didn't have the credits listed on the course guides before. Now you know how many credits they will get if they complete those courses. So we just made some changes. We were going to add the M126 under math and the M125, the pre-calc and the trigonometry. So those will be new dual credit courses here at Blue River, not going somewhere else. Questions on our in-house Blue River dual credit options? All right, I'll move on. The next page is on Teacher Share. So Teacher Share is a new program through East Central Education Service Center. East Central Indiana schools have joined together, and our kids, if we give up a teacher for a period, we can have 15 students enroll in Teacher Share. If we give up 2 teachers, we get 30 students that can have seats. In Teacher Share, why do you do that? It's to have schools like Blue River that can be small and have a hard time offering everything. We get the opportunity for our kids to take more classes we can't offer. So for example, this year, we have students taking physics, and Blue River wasn't able to offer physics this year. Kids are able to come. The requirements of this Teacher Share is they do 3 days of instruction. It's all delivered via computer, but it's 3 days live with their teacher, and 2 days they have office hours and get to work on their work. So they are here in the high school when they take that course, with the supervision of adults here, but that teacher, for example, it's a Wapahani that physics is offered, and so we all partnered together. This year we offered a course with Mrs. Hollingsworth on advanced accounting. She did to get that together. Unfortunately, no one from the area needed advanced accounting, but they still let our kids participate. Next year we are offering up to 3 courses. We're going to offer a dual credit music class for Ivy Tech Communities with Mr. Carter, and then we put in 2 options for Mrs. Hollingsworth to teach, one on Microsoft credentialing and one on advanced accounting. When I talk to Teacher Share, you're kind of guessing at what other people need still. It's a new program, but everything in that is at 0 cost to our students that would take that less. If they had, to take the AP exam, it costs money, so they pay for that. Questions on Teacher Share? The courses that are offered in East Central Indiana are listed there. Like I said, if we had students that, I know Mr. McCormick and Mrs. Whaley met with all the juniors, and one student said they're interested in American Sign Language, we could offer American Sign Language, but we only have, at this moment, we would only have 30 seats for next year. So not everybody gets the opportunity, but certain students do that are interested. Yeah, question?
Yeah, so, just trying to understand the calculus. So we offer calculus as a dual credit.
Yep.
But it's also available through Teacher Share.
Correct.
So what would drive our kids to use Teacher Share for calculus?
They don't have to, but some schools can't offer calculus, so here's a way they can do it.
Okay,
Or
so it's on the
calculus-
list, but
yep.
we probably, okay.
These are all the courses that they could
Gotcha.
take, or maybe there's a scheduling conflict. So maybe calculus is in the afternoon and they're gone.
Okay.
They could still take calculus.
Okay.
And each of these, through East Central Indiana, like it's a specific time. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, my live instruction is from this time to this time. So sometimes that limits Teacher Shares too. It's like a class block.
Sure.
And so I think over time, sharing resources is going to be probably a thing. I think it's still new though, and there's a lot of kinks to still be worked out. The students we have in it have seemed to do, from what I know and been told, they've done a really nice job. Questions about Teacher Share? Okay, the next few pages, and again, I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I can give you the brief version or the briefest version I can. These are all of the new courses that we are adding to the course guide that we haven't in the past. So in English, right now, all of our juniors and all of our seniors, with the addition of a new staff member last year, their English credits, so they took English 9, English 10, and then English 11 and 12, they get options. And in the past, it was 1 comprehension course and 1 composition course. So because we had a new teacher, last year we offered only film lit and only technical communication to all of our juniors and seniors unless they were doing early college and something along those lines. Well, we can't do that again. They cannot get another, our seniors next year cannot get another credit in film literature, which we knew was going to happen. So we wanted to have a rotation. We met with our English department. There's lots of different options that the DOE gives us. Our English department was really excited about Indiana literature as the comprehension course from Indiana authors, and then composition. So kids as juniors or seniors could take film lit or They could take Indiana literature, or they could take technical communications or composition. They just can't, they have to have different ones their junior year and their senior year. The critical thinking and argumentation course is really an SAT prep style of course for kids that are interested in taking that. So not a requirement, but that's the difference in the English department. The big differences in fine arts is we met with the fine arts department. They would someday like us to explore a locally graded pathway. Mrs. Whaley and I did not feel like we are ready to jump in that ship just quite yet, but we are ready to make some progress towards it. So the biggest changes for them are they would like to have their kids take beginning course, and then instead of having them take beginning course again, they would like to differentiate between the intermediate and advanced to kind of have a level 1, 2, 3 of choir and band both. So that's the big changes for music, and I guess just music for now. Mr. Carter would like us to try a jazz ensemble as a band course. We don't know at the moment if that's something our kids are really interested in or not, but we can offer it and see what happens before we make our schedules for next year. The same thing with art, being able to offer advanced 2D and advanced 3D. We already offer intros, and then sometimes our students choose between ceramics, sculpture, painting, drawing. This would give them just another course they could take. Mrs. Cross would likely have to teach advanced 3D with ceramics at the same time and kind of differentiate within the classroom. If the kids wanted their trade strips to have different options, we have our options for them. All of the multidisciplinarian courses are all things that we are required to add because of graduation pathways. So our bucket 2 of service-based learning and work-based learning, we have to track that now through PowerSchool. So those are just those courses in bucket 2 to graduate high school. So those are all requirements that are new. And that's in the project-based learning goes in there. In social studies, we've been trying to get this added for a couple of years, but Mrs. Whaley and I feel like we have a way to do that. We'd like to offer psychology and sociology to students, if possible. They are 1 semester classes each, but most of our students that do go to college have to take one of those courses. So we'd like to try to give an intro level to that. In agriculture, again, we talked a lot last year about what possibly we could offer with a second art teacher or art ag teacher. We're going to go there. So some of these courses might have been there, but just to make sure, we wanted to gauge student interest before we 100% commit to which ones. But we have food science, precision ag, and then we have a student that needs to take landscape management, so we have to offer that next year. And then medical intervention is the biomed class that's needed. So those are the brand new courses. Everything else in the course guide has been there before and had been approved prior. The last piece that we have that would be a change to the course guide, and Mrs. Whaley printed it on a separate piece because she kind of worked on the side of it. Many schools offer alternative PE credits, so if they participate in a IHSAA sport, that they would get a credit for PE 2. So here at Blue River, our 8th graders take PE 1, get their first PE credit. And why do we do that? We do that to offer more, they have more options as freshmen then. When we didn't do that, their freshman schedule doesn't have a lot of electives. So we bumped that down to 8th grade, give them advanced credit in PE 1. We would like any of our freshmen or sophomores the opportunity to take PE 2 as one of their sports. So there's a letter kind of explaining it. We've picked and pulled from different schools in Indiana that are doing this and have been doing it for quite some time and created one that we thought was more appropriate for Blue River. And then the students have a form to complete. The PE teacher would still be responsible for the grade in PowerSchool, which is essentially on their transcript. Questions about alternative PE options?
How long do they have to participate to get the credit?
From the beginning to the end of their season of sport.
Just one season?
Time. PE 2 is a 1 semester course. And a requirement for graduation. This way they'd also be able, we call it strength and conditioning here. In the DOE course guide, it's not called weight training, even though that's what our students refer to it here. It's just called elective PE, alternative PE. So they would be able to take PE 2 and that weight training course that we offer sooner as well. They have those done. Questions? Mrs. Whaley, did I miss anything? anything on that one?
I don't think so, unless they have any questions about it. I think grading would be the hardest part. So what we think would be best is if they start, finish, they're in good standing with their coach in the sport, we think that that would be an A, because that would probably translate to what they were doing in the classroom. So instead of having percentages on that, we just had this same grade for everyone. We thought that would be the fairest way possible. So that's also in that letter that would go out to parents.
And they don't have to do this option.
No, just an alternative option.
I want to thank Mrs. Dickerson, Mrs. Whaley for all the work they've done. You know, they really have taken a deep dive into our curriculum. The full curriculum guide is, we just did 2 copies since it was the thicker version, but they really, I mean, literally from the curriculum piece to literally reformatting it, you know, technologically speaking, brought it up to speed, and we are fortunate for a school our size to have what Mrs. Dickerson and Mrs. Whaley have put together and all the offerings for our students. It really is remarkable and meaningful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. It was a lot of tedious, very, very hard work.
We
Appreciate
had 4
that.
screens going at one time, just so you know.
In addition to running your building, I cannot imagine how many hours you put toward this. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah, they worked very hard on this, a lot of hours.
Any other questions?
A lot of intelligence in those 2 brains. For this, I know.
You need a motion, Carl?
Please, sir.
Make a motion, we accept the course curriculum as provided.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes 4-0. Next item is the approval of paraprofessional and custodial pay rates.
Mrs. Riley and I went down to Indianapolis, met with Stiefel, our financial partner, advisor, if you will, last week, in exploring possibilities to this end in bringing these 2 subgroups kind of up to at least the middle of the pack locally to what we would think would be a fair wage. So with that, I'll put Mrs. Riley on the spot. Just if you could give a brief description, Mrs. Riley, on how we kind of came to these categories. And just to be clear, if you approve this tonight, this would go into effect actually from this morning. It would start today. And this is essentially these 2 subgroups, their raise, if you will, for the 23-24 school year. They're just getting it early. So I want to be clear on that for the record, that it's kind of a 2-part new pay rate. It's for the 23-24 school year, but it starts this morning, if approved.
With that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
So this covers assistants, aides, maintenance, custodial, transportation. Is there anybody else that would be making less than 13? Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't accidentally leave out Kevin.
This was kind of the last group we felt like we needed to tackle. We overhauled the ECA pay schedule last summer with the CTA. And so this was kind of the last grouping on our mind that we felt needed to be taken care of, for lack of a better term, and brought up to speed.
That was it.
Okay, thank you. I believe we're in a position to vote. All in favor? Opposed? Let the minutes reflect, motion passes 4-0. Lastly, we have our policies on the agenda. Mr. McCormick has requested more time to peruse the 4 policies that were set tonight for second reading. More time would be beneficial to go over those policies. Do I have a motion to do just that and table the 4 policies that were scheduled for second reading? And then we will deal with those. Have our first reading of policies tonight. We'll table the second reading of those other 4 and deal with those in April.
Sounds good.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
On the first, I do have questions on 2 of the policies on first reading. I'd like to go talk about first reading. Or I can throw them out now.
That would be great, since I have no idea what to do.
Gotcha. So on the crowdfunding, we got a limitation of $50,000. Is that statutory, or do we have some ability to modify that? It was a really expensive field trip in 3 years. I could see, hopefully the European folks exceeding that cap sometime in 3 years if they use this as a source.
Yeah, and Mr. Coons, we can explore that and modify it between now and the April board meeting. Yeah, we can absolutely look at that and modify it.
And then the second one was on criminal organization activity. Under the first sentence under consequences, I couldn't really catch more details on. I just want to take a peek at that, make sure my copies are.
Okay. I'll make a note of that and look at that between now and second reading.
So, forgive me, do we have a motion in place?
Not yet. Well, yeah, we do. As I said, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Mission seconded, my sounds good to me.
Okay, I think we're ready to call for a vote on that motion to table the second reading of the 4. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. So tabling of those, that motion passes 4-0. And now I'll give the floor to Mrs. Brown for the first reading of policies tonight.
First reading of policies for F200 investment income, F225 crowdfunding, F250 travel expenses, F275 gift and donations, G100 facility and transportation security, G125 criminal organizations and criminal organization activity.
You know, coach me up here. Do we need a motion in regard to those at all?
Not the first reading.
Okay. Just let the minutes reflect. We have had the first reading of those policies. Okay. Appreciate everyone's patience with me tonight in my rookie run of running the meeting. Anything
You did an
else?
excellent job.
A few chuckles here and there, but thank you for your patience.
And anytime you get us out before 8 o'clock, it's most appreciated.
Appreciate that. With that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.